What's up, Army? It's Jackie, also known as Jackie in the Soup, and welcome to Talk Bangtan to Me, a podcast all about BTS for ARMY. Whether you're a seasoned ARMY or just discovering the magic of Bangtan, this podcast is a space to celebrate the music, the moments, and the incredible impact BTS has on our lives. I'll be diving into the world of fandom, chatting with fellow ARMY, and sharing all the reasons why we love these 7 normal boys from Korea. So come into my own little magic shop and talk Bangtan to me. Today's episode I have titled The Bangtan Effect. As we prepare for the guys to get back and for Hope on the Stage to kick off, it has my community and many ARMY communities all abuzz about meeting up and seeing each other. And it has me just noticing more than ever how diverse ARMY is. And those of you that are going to Hope on the Stage will notice that. So you're going to see all ages, all backgrounds, all colors of skin. You're going to see such a wide range of people. But we all have this same thing in common, where we do not know what life was like before them. They've become a lifestyle. They've become a huge part of our life. We've moved mountains to be in that room with them and with ARMY. And it had me thinking, what is it about BTS that makes them so special? And of course, I can name a bunch of obvious reasons, right? I could sit here all day and talk about why I love BTS. But on a bigger scale, what has made them so successful and what has made people from all walks of life just fall in love with them and invite them into their lives in such a big way? And especially people that are not into K-pop. There's a large percentage of ARMY that do not listen to K-pop and weren't familiar with K-pop even until they found BTS. BTS has something special that they were able to break out of K-pop to the point where I guess you could say they're K-pop because they're Korean and they have pop music. But to me, they've broken out of K-pop and they have such a global appeal to them. They've achieved something that many Korean artists strive to. One of the main reasons I think they are so successful is because of their talent, all of their individual talents, and how versatile they are. BTS music encompasses everything. I feel like no matter what genre of music you like, you can find it in BTS or in the solo works. They kind of satisfy all needs. Me personally, I have a really diverse music taste. I would say my home base is alternative rock. I love new wave, punk rock. I love the 90s grunge era. I also love some hip hop, and I can't deny a great pop song either. But I never in a million years saw myself listening to Korean music. It's the first time I really dove into loving music that was not in my language. Not for any particular reason. It just never happened that way. Somehow, BTS's music appealed to me because it's got a little bit of everything. You can find bits of all of those genres I named in their music. And I love that. It's pretty unique to find a group that can do that, especially considering the fact that they write their own music. They're able to write in so many different styles, which is very unique. On top of that, as I said, the talent is off the charts. We know that they have trained rigorously and their work ethic is unmatched. And that's a whole reason in itself what sets them apart. But aside from that, they have natural God-given talent in them too. And I think being in the group and training as an idol helped uncover those talents that they had. Those that were into entertainment already, like the rap line, already writing rap music, they just enhanced those talents and learned new ones. But then some of the others who didn't necessarily see themselves in this career, I'm thinking about Tae, who never even intended to audition for this group. I feel like he uncovered all of these amazing talents that maybe he wouldn't have if he didn't audition for BTS. They all have this immense talent, for sure. And individually, you can see it shine, but when you bring them together, it's like magic. They just complement each other so well. Every single song, mostly every single song, has parts in it where you can hear each member's voice and style. Each member kind of has their little spotlight moment, but it all goes together so well and creates this beautiful product at the end. Now, the hard work and the dedication to foster those talents is something that inspires me completely. I know inspires many others. We all know that training to become a K-pop idol is brutal. There's plenty of artists who have spoke about this. There's documentaries about it. We know how hard they work. Sometimes you hear these horror stories about diets and, working 20-hour days and not being able to see your family and being away from home. Things that are difficult, especially for these young idols. And BTS did that. Members were young. They were teenagers. And they left home and they worked hard and just took punch after punch. And if you watch their documentary on Disney Plus, Beyond the Star, you'll really see a lot of that, where they just would dance all day. They didn't get a day off. They would go a month straight with not a break. But in some way, it doesn't feel like they were forced. They were hungry for this. They wanted it. They wanted to be perfect. They tell stories about how Jimin would go in early and practice and practice and practice and work himself so hard. They took it seriously. They were so dedicated. They still are. It wasn't just a choreographer coming in to teach them a dance. They wanted to perfect their craft. They were fully committed to their roles and what they wanted to do. They're deeply invested in their music. They sit there and they come up with lyrics and they write concepts of songs, which isn't always the case in K-pop. I think that sets BTS apart as well, is that they have such creative direction in their music. And the music they write is so meaningful. That was one of the things that I was so shocked about when I started listening to BTS because my son was interested. These lyrics blew my mind. They're talking about mental health, talking about self-love, talking about the journey of becoming an adult and everything that comes with adolescence, things that people can relate to. Even at my age, I found them in my 30s. I could still relate because in a lot of ways, I was going through a journey similar to a teenager would be going into, kind of fear of the unknown, having hopes and dreams, and pushing forward. Those are the things that BTS is talking about in their music. And that's so refreshing. I think it's empowering. I think it's introspective. And it's something that if you haven't taken the time to read the lyrics, and there's no shame in that because their music is so beautiful and catchy that you don't even have to know what they're talking about, and you can love the song. But for some people, connection to lyrics is really important. So if you haven't done that, I highly suggest you read the translations of some of their lyrics and listen to the things that they're saying, because that sets them apart too. So despite the lyrics being in a different language, they are topics that fans worldwide can resonate with and relate to. Something else, which goes without saying, one of the number one things that sets them apart is their connection to ARMY. BTS has a way of making ARMY feel seen and heard and recognized and appreciated. I don't know how they do it. And yes, the expectation of idols is to be deeply immersed in your fans. But what BTS shows us is so genuine. They are so genuine in their interactions with ARMY, all 7 of them. And the love that they have for ARMY feels so pure and so real. And I love to see how this relationship has been blossoming and evolving over the years. The love has always been strong, but now especially we are seeing that their relationship with ARMY is getting stronger and stronger because it's actually bringing truth to absence makes the heart grow fonder. That's absolutely what is happening with them. And I think so many of us were missing that in our lives to an extent. We needed them. Maybe we felt really alone in our lives and they filled that void. Maybe we felt like people didn't see us or appreciate us the way we deserve. When I found BTS, I was coming out of a situation where I was not appreciated, I was not seen, and they were like a safety net for me. I joke sometimes that I feel closer to them than I do to people I actually know. And I can't explain that, but I know I'm not alone when I say that. So the BTS and ARMY relationship definitely sets them apart. It's probably one of the greatest things about coming into this fandom is that relationship you are going to have with BTS and how you are going to feel so very close to them to a point where it feels like you do know them personally. And we do. Really, we do. Of course, they have sides of themselves that we don't know about. There's plenty of things about them that we don't know, but the parts of themselves they choose to show us are genuine, I think, which leads me to one of the main reasons that they are different, at least in my opinion. They are just good people. Humble, good people. They never take their fame for granted. They don't show off their money and live in excess. They still cook their own meals and do their own laundry and clean their own homes. It's so wholesome. What I've loved about this point in their career is that now they're going live from inside their homes. They've invited us into their homes, and JK especially kind of started this, but showing us what their lives are actually like. They're doing laundry, they're cleaning, they're just so very normal. Even what they've shown us from their homes, I mean, they're beautiful apartments, they're gorgeous and well kept, but they're by no means living in excess. They still seem shocked and surprised and so grateful when they win big awards. They still say things like, why do people love us so much? The fame has not gone to their heads in the way it could have. And when people are young and they get famous, that's a recipe for disaster. The entertainment industry is cruel. It will make you and it will break you. And we have so many child stars that have gone down ill-fated paths as a result. But BTS remains humble and happy and strong, and I think it's because they have each other. Aside from the obvious trials and tribulations that come with being famous on that level, they still seem pretty grounded. Really grounded, actually. It's so refreshing to see BTS be just like you and I, even though they're 7 of the most famous people in the world. And on top of them being humble, normal humans, they are so giving and generous. They are philanthropists. They're always donating money personally and as a group. That's also something I feel like we don't hear a lot of in the entertainment industry. There are some huge celebrities where I'm like, I've not heard anything about anything you've done to give back to the world. And BTS does that all the time. They use their platform and their fame for good. They are that reminder that there is goodness in the world, that there are good people in the world. And that's why we love them so fiercely and support them so much, because they are people that truly deserve it. And everything I just said are just some of the reasons that they are different, and it's what sets them apart. And it's why they will continue to have a loyal fan base that is diverse as we are. I look forward to watching them continue to break barriers and perform on global stages. Having songs in English got attention in the West and was just the gateway for people to see the magic that is BTS. And I like that. I want more people in the world to see how special they are and to fall down that rabbit hole. I feel like there's so much more that I can say. That's how it is with them. I could go on and talk about all the things I love about BTS, and it never feels like I said the right words. And I wish I could, because I know that you all get it. If you're listening to this, you all get it. But people that aren't in the fandom, I just wish I could convey this in a way that they get it. But I'm just grateful to have ARMY, and we all kind of have this collective understanding with one another, and we get it. Okay, let's talk about what's been going on in the fandom since the last episode. We had a few events all revolving around J-Hope's upcoming tour, starting with LA. LA finally got their pre-sale. It was long awaited. I had several friends and followers who were just very anxious to get this pre-sale over with. They did all the preparations possible. They watched it unfold across the whole country and saw what it was going to be like. And honestly, we all kind of expected that it was going to be just as crazy as some of the other pre-sales. But my goodness, it was so easy. My mind was blown. Everybody I talked to had a fairly low queue time, got right in, chose their seats, and got out. It was nothing like the bloodbath that happened everywhere else. I went in hours later, and there were still floor seats. That is unheard of. Also, the prices were really reasonable. The dynamic pricing, if there was any at all, was nothing like the other dates. We had $800, $900 tickets on the lower levels. We didn't see that in LA. And I think it's obvious that this was due to the tragic wildfires, and Ticketmaster was kind of throwing LA a bone, which they absolutely deserve. It's been devastating what the city has had to endure, and I'm glad that they got this chance to get their tickets with ease. It does, however, shine a light on the fact that there's a lot of corruption going on with ticketing. I think personally they were not letting resellers and scalpers partake in this, and they were truly leaving the tickets open to the people in the pre-sale, which made things so much easier. So many sections of tickets are gone immediately because they are taken by bots or by people who want to profit off of these tickets, or Ticketmaster themselves is holding back tickets. I think they do that too. They were able to offer the maximum amount of seats possible, and they held back on that dynamic pricing. So they could have done that everywhere. Imagine if they had done that everywhere. They would still see a profit because the tickets are not cheap. They're still pretty expensive, but this absolutely could have been done everywhere. And it would be so nice because it would make going to see concerts not just something that the privileged can do, because that's truly what it feels like. You got to have some serious money to get these tickets. And if you don't, it is a financial setback. For most of us that paid $600, $700, $800 to go see these concerts, that's a major chunk of money. And we all do it because money is no object when it comes to these guys. We all find a way to go. But it would just be nice if it was more accessible and affordable to everyone. But at any rate, I'm very happy for LA. I hope that they have the best time. And I'm even considering getting on a plane and going because the cost of a ticket plus the cost of a plane is still cheaper than what I paid to see him 2 nights in Brooklyn. And that's crazy to me. But it is what it is. Asia also had their pre-sale. That, on the other hand, I heard was much like the rest of the US. Queue times were insanely high. I saw a screenshot on my Instagram where someone was 132,000 in line. That makes sense. Some of these cities do not get the concerts as often as the US or Korea. So it makes sense that everybody's trying to get to those concerts. I'm just so happy for Hobie. I'm so happy that he is going to have a sold out concert at every single stop on the tour. This is going to be his moment, and it is the perfect segue into us preparing for the guys to come back. When this tour wraps up, we truly are right around the corner from having OT7 back. It's going to go so quick. And speaking of that, it was Hobie's birthday and he did a live. And I'm not surprised he did a live because he's been so active. He's been so good about posting on his TikTok, which is a whole situation, that TikTok. Oh my goodness. And posting on Instagram and interacting. So I wasn't surprised to see him on his birthday live, but I did not expect to hear from JK and Jimin. It felt like old times. Remember that live that Hobie did before he enlisted where he was in the studio and Jimin showed up and they were dancing together? To hear Jimin's voice, even though it was on the phone in his studio again, it just felt like, oh my gosh, we're coming full circle now. We actually almost did it. They sound like they're doing well. I mean, as well as they can be given the circumstances. It was so great to hear them. And I'm going to need Jimin to elaborate on his statement that JK is huge now. I'm going to need more details, please. And finally, the last kind of big thing that happened was the launch of his tour merch. This merch is some of the nicest merch I have seen, and I'm not a merch girl. I really am not. I think it's really expensive. I'm not interested in waiting in the merch lines on concert day. And I don't know, I just never felt the need to have it. But this merch was really surprising. I guess it's not surprising because Hobie is like the fashion icon of BTS. But his merch with this neutral color palette with the browns and the reds, it is so wearable. It doesn't even look like merch. It looks like something he would wear every day. And I love that. I was very, very tempted, but I talked myself out of it. I knew that sweater jacket thing, I knew that was going to be the hot commodity that everybody wanted. I knew it was going to be expensive and that it was going to sell out instantly. But I wanted to watch it happen in real time. So I got on right at 8 p.m. Eastern time and I saw the merch go live. And I put that sweater in my cart just for giggles. I just wanted to see. And by the time I went to check out, I got a message it was sold out. 8:02 p.m. That jacket and many other items were sold out. Unreal. And people were surprised. This was their first event. I said, treat merch like ticketing. It is the same thing. You got to get on right when it launches and it's gone in minutes. Merch is even worse than tickets sometimes, I think. But yeah, everything was gone within minutes. I know there was a second launch or a second restock, but maybe some of that's still available. I don't know. But the merch lines will still be crazy. I really liked that Army Bomb strap that was there, but if I ordered it online, it's not even guaranteed to get to me by the time the tour starts. So I just figured I'll pass this time. But I feel like the countdown is officially on. We have the live streams next weekend. I'm going to Brooklyn in less than 3 weeks. I can't believe it. So these segments on the podcast are going to be very Hope on the Stage focused and Hobie focused because this is his time to shine. He's our star right now. I already plan to do a whole episode unpacking Hope on the Stage after I get back. So let's table that for now and see what Hobie's got up his sleeve right before the tour launches. And let's shift into the guest of the podcast. I have been really excited for this guest. Her name is Katie, and she's got an amazing story of how BTS was pivotal in her healing journey after a tragic accident. So join me in welcoming Katie. Hi, Katie. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Jackie. It's so good to be here today. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. I've been so excited for this. I've been waiting for weeks. For those of you that have not followed along on Instagram, probably, I don't know, a couple months ago now, Katie had sent me a DM in response to something I had posted, and she had shared a snippet of this incredible story of her healing journey after a tragic accident she had been through. And I was so touched by it. I felt moved to share it to my story, and I just got this outpouring of love and support and messages from people saying they were crying, they were touched, they were just so blown away by this. And I thought, I got to have her on the podcast. I got to have her come tell this story. And she agreed. I think this is a story that we need to hear, especially as we're approaching the guys coming back, and we need to be reminded of some of these reasons why we're here in this fandom. So, Katie, if you would, please tell us your Army story.
Oh, Jackie, thank you. And thanks to anyone who, cared enough to even DM Jackie about how it touched their heart. I do pray that today that my story would be a blessing to everyone in this listening audience, because I think every once in a while, you get to hear a miracle story or a story that is like just heaven touching earth. And my story is one of those stories. BTS was a big part of my story, as well as community, family, kinds of things. So backtrack to June of 2022, I and my family went on a vacation to Colorado. And so prior to this, I was a swimmer. For a period of my life, I was swimming a mile a day. So I'm not a good swimmer. I'm a good swimmer. And so we went on to a tributary of the Colorado River to go whitewater rafting. And there was a large group of us because it was our whole extended family for a family reunion. So it was a cold day. This was June 13th in Colorado. Those of you who aren't familiar with Colorado.
Just let me pause for a second. June 13th, that's BTS's debut anniversary.
Oh my gosh.
Wow. That is their anniversary. That's the biggest date in BTS history. Wow.
Well,
okay.
Do you know what? That's great, because that just gave me a whole nother happy thing that happened on that day instead of just a bad thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Go on. Yeah. I just had to say that. All right.
So June 13th turned out to be one of the worst days of my life, actually. So that was good to reframe it. I can now reframe that day as a happy day. But we embarked on a whitewater rafting trip. I have never been whitewater rafting before this, but everyone else that I was with had many times. My brother-in-law, who was navigating this boat, had been doing this entire life and never turned over once. But nevertheless, our boat hit a pylon, which is the cement things that hold up overpasses over the river. And when our boat hit that, it just flipped over. And instantly we were thrown into the river, and it was ice cold. I think it was in the 40-degree range. And I was powerless against the power of this river. It was just very, very powerful. I had a life preserver on, but even still, I could not get my head above the water. And I was just being carried down the river. Prior to the boat completely turning over, right at that last split second, I could tell what was going to happen. And I had the presence of mind to grab my husband's t-shirt, and I never let go of it. And because my husband, Wade, who is my hero, he is 6'8". He is full of muscle. He's a very, very strong man. And I knew if anything happened, he would do his best to save my life. And that's exactly what happened. So he fought very, very hard. He could tell that I couldn't get my head over the water. And by this point, my hand was like completely twisted in his shirt, but I wasn't going to let go because I figured that was like my lifeline to somehow getting out of this. And that's what happened. He actually just fought really hard to save my life that day. So he got me out. Eventually, we got out. So it's crazy because at first, I was just so grateful to be alive. And I was very shaken up, but I was trying to stay calm for the sake of my kids and everybody else that was there, because there was younger nephews and nieces. A lot of people had been injured, but like everyone seemed worse than me. And so we got back on the boat and went back down the river. And when I got finally at the end of the day, when I got home, I was just feeling very weird, like just did not feel good. And I figured, well, we've had the equivalent of like a car accident. I probably just need to go to sleep. And just was having trouble catching my breath. But I didn't put two and two together, which just shows you like how I'm blonder than I pay to be sometimes. Because I didn't realize like that I had water in my lungs. And so anyone listening to this podcast, I just want to encourage you, if you're ever in a situation where, you are drug in water and you don't know whether or not you have water in your lungs, don't second guess that. Just go and get it checked out, because to make a very long story short, eventually, actually it was 6 days later, 6 days of me feeling weird, feeling short of breath, feeling not myself, but thinking to myself, because we were at a really high elevation in Colorado and I live in South Carolina, people kept saying, oh, well, you're having altitude sickness. And now I think that it could have been a both and type of a situation where I was in a low oxygen environment to begin with, but I also had water in my lungs. So it was a perfect storm. And it created an environment where my brain did not get enough oxygen one night. So I woke up one morning 6 days later, essentially with my two eyes going in different directions. And I couldn't get them to come together at all. Like I could not, with my own brain, create a situation where my eyes could adjust. And it was like, what in the world is going on? And that lasted about 5 minutes. And then they went back together. But then the rest of the day, I just felt really, really weak and dizzy and sick. Well, as it turns out, I actually had a pre-scheduled doctor's appointment, like a checkup already on the books. Because, I'm 50, or I was 48 now. And so we were like staying in a cabin when this was happening. And then the very next day we flew home. And the very next day after that is when my doctor's appointment was. So can you believe that I didn't go to the doctor or anything in Montana? I just got on an airplane, which was the worst possible thing I could have done, because it put me in another really low oxygen environment under pressure.
Right.
And so I was continuing to just compound my brain injury over and over and over and make it worse and worse and worse, but I didn't know it. So by the time I got off the plane to get home, I could barely walk. I couldn't lift my arms. Like my eyes were going in and out of, focus. And I was like, what is happening? Like I felt like I was losing my body, the ability to feel my body. And so went to the doctor. And the morning I went to my doctor's appointment, I broke out in shingles. Okay. So the very morning of my appointment, I got a bad case of shingles across my face, where you can see I still have scars on my face because it was sort of wrapping around my jaw and around my eye. So when I went in, the doctor said, oh my gosh, you've got a really bad case of shingles and it's on your optic nerves. And that is why you can't see. So she put me on shingles treatment, whatever that was, like steroids. And I don't remember if it was antibiotics or whatever. I still didn't know I had water in my lungs, believe it or not. So I have a friend who's a nurse, and she finally was like, Katie, something is not adding up. I kept going to the doctor. I'd been to the doctor now 3 times, different opinions, different doctors. All of them thought it was shingles, like a really bad case. that it was affecting my optic nerves. Nobody had put two and two together yet that I had experienced a dry drowning. But after 12 weeks on shingles treatment, I now was completely disabled. I had no feeling in my body. I couldn't swallow. I couldn't speak. I could not control my eyes with my brain. I couldn't lift my arms. I couldn't use my hands. Could no longer walk. Nothing. I lost every possible ability. Couldn't go to the bathroom without help. I couldn't bathe myself, dress myself. Nothing. I went from completely active to completely disabled. And so went finally for a fourth opinion, finally got to a neuro-ophthalmologist. And he took one look at me and he said, "What in the world? They diagnosed you with shingles?" He said, "There's no shingles on your optic nerves." And he said, "I think you have a brain tumor." He said, "Why don't you go in and get a CAT scan?" Went in to get a CAT scan and there was nothing that showed up, but they sent me for an MRI. When I got the MRI, it showed that a large portion of my brain had died on my cerebellum and my brainstem. And he really did not give me any hope that day that things would turn around for me. And so at this point, I was totally disabled. You know, my husband is a pastor, and I've always felt really close to the Lord and close to God. But I have to say that, Jackie, at this time in my life, that everything I was going through was so hard. But the hardest thing of all was feeling like, what did I do? Like, where are you, God? I was like, God, have you abandoned me or forgotten me? And so once I finally got the correct diagnosis that I had killed a large portion of my brain, they really didn't give me much hope for recovery. It was basically like, okay, let's keep her comfortable. This was during COVID era too. There wasn't a lot of therapy happening. I had to do all my therapy online with YouTube, which makes it even a greater miracle because I literally watched YouTube videos to do therapy. My kids would manipulate my arms and legs and my husband and my whole family, my church community, like pitched in. At some point in my story, a girl actually from my church, her name is Ariel. She's a 20-something-year-old young lady, beautiful girl. And she shared with me BTS. And I know that sounds like crazy, but she was a big fan of K-pop. And she was like, "I think, Miss Katie, you'd really like this." Mm-hmm. And I did. It was like the right spot in this really dark night that never felt like it ended. I felt like their music just brought me joy and like something, I cannot even explain it, Jackie. But you know, those of us who know, we just know. They always say, right, you find them when you need them. And that's my story, is that they became a big part of every day with therapy. I would just turn on their songs and it would take my mind off of it. Mm-hmm. Take my mind off of my nightmare. And I swear that it enabled me to get better, faster. I swear it did. Because how do you explain it? It just became less of a chore. And I then not only did I learn about their music, but I started learning about their lives. I started to hear, you know, like these kids just worked like dogs. You know, like 19, 20 hours a day of discipline and hard work and just giving it their all and with basically no recognition. And they were like the ultimate underdogs.
Yes.
And I found myself in them. And I like to say, I think their music kind of became like the Rocky theme song of my life. It was like, okay, now it's my time. It's my time to walk. It's my time to try to lift my arms, try to use my body again. Slowly, I relearned how to walk. I learned how to get dressed. I learned how to live my life. I mean, every single thing that I can do, including just this, is a victory, hard fought. And that took a lot of effort, a lot of time, a lot of energy. And I really do thank God for those boys because they brought me joy. And not only that, I will say this, I think I told you this, but for my husband and I, listen, my husband is my ultimate bias. But do you know that man who does not like boy bands at all would dance with me in the living room to BTS? I mean, we would dance and laugh. And I looked horrendous because I could barely shuffle, could barely lift my arms. But you know what? The important thing was movement, just to
Right.
get meaningful movement in. I would say some of our really, really joyful times doing that together.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kept on my therapy every day. And I have to say, I think my brain rewired with BTS and God, because I know that's a weird combination. So that's my brain now. It's like
God and BTS.
it's like, God was the driver behind everything, but like he used these boys in my life, these 7 kids from Korea, to really, like, I don't know, just inject fun
Yes.
into my misery. I just really thank God, because my story is this story of God reaching down and just in his mercy touching me. And I know that it doesn't happen for everyone. I want to give a shout out to an ARMY who I know listens to your podcast, who is dying. She's got serious cancer right now, jaw cancer. And it's been very, very disfiguring. And she went through cancer before and has lost the ability to walk. And I know that, like, there's a lot of people, Jackie, that listen to you and that are out in the ARMY universe, right, that are suffering and hurting. But I hope that my story just, if nothing else, it reminds you, don't give up. Don't give up. Keep on every day doing what you can do. I think having an attitude of gratitude and thankfulness for the little things that we can do each day. Do what you can. Take joy where you can find it. My story was BTS was a place of joy. It was a place where I didn't have to worry and have anxiety about the future or whatever. It was just pure entertainment. Yeah. And I'm so thankful for those boys. I wish I could make them a big meal and just have them over and tell them how precious they are to me, because they are. They're so precious to me. Each one of them.
I'm just so stunned. What an amazing story. And I think that in ARMY, a lot of us have this thing in common where BTS finds you when you need them the most. And some of us, it's emotional. We're going through a dark emotional time. For you, it was emotional and physical, going through a really dark time. And that's what kind of unites us together. And this whole episode has been about what sets BTS apart. What is it that makes them so special? Because there's so much music out there and there's so many fandoms, but BTS just has this little bit of something special. And for a lot of people, it is that joy. They taught me how to find joy again when I had not experienced joy in a long time. And they still do that every day for me. They're like my bright, shining star. And they've pushed me to overcome my struggles and triumph, not physically like yours. I cannot even imagine losing your sight and losing the ability to walk and all of those things. But they still have helped me immensely. I owe so much to them. So that's incredible. And would you say now, are you pretty much almost to 100% functioning?
I would say that I'm about 85%. So my voice, you can't maybe tell it so much, but I actually trained as a singer too. And so I've lost the ability to sing. I am starting to get it back though. I'm getting a lot more vocal range. So I'm hopeful that it will resolve. But really, honestly, I am so thankful, Jackie. You have no idea. They say that people with my brain injury, it's like 96% die in the first 6 months. And then like a high percentage of people that are left end up in wheelchairs the rest of their life. I'm just so thankful. I know that it sounds cheesy maybe, but to those of us who are listening to this podcast, it doesn't. But I'm thankful to BTS. They really inspired my heart.
Yeah.
And they're just so precious to me. Those boys, they're my kids' age almost.
Yeah.
And they're just so precious. They're just precious.
Yeah. And they really make you feel, I think what sets them apart is that you feel really connected to them as humans. They're not just performers and singers.
That's right. That's
But
right.
you do feel very connected to them as individuals. They are very connected to ARMY in ways that entertainers are not connected to their fan base. It's just different and it's special. Do you have a bias? I have to ask.
Oh, that's funny. I vacillate between, I love Kim Tae-young, like his solo album. I love his voice. I love his jazzy vibe. And then I love Jimin too, which is like he's just, his personality is so kind.
Yes.
And I feel like he's the backbone of everybody. Like just, he's just such a dear young man.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I love JK's interaction. I like the McNay line, I guess.
Yeah.
So I
Me
don't know
too.
if I have like a true bias.
I tend to gravitate towards them too. And for a lot of the same reasons, Jimin, I could see Jimin as being exactly what you would need going through the
Yes,
time that you had, just a gentle, kind, loving soul
yes,
that loves so deeply.
yes.
Um, I could see you needing exactly that. And then the Maknae line, they're chaotic and they're fun. And they have all this energy. And yeah, they're a good time.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
so I love that. Thank you for sharing all of
Thank
that.
you, Jackie.
Thank you. And our last part of the podcast, of course, everybody loves the song choice of the episode. And people have said, I've gotten a lot of feedback that whenever we do a song choice of the episode, it causes them to see the song differently. They always run and listen to it after the episode's over and just kind of process what the guest had said about it in the discussion. So please share with us what your song of the episode is.
Yeah. So I thought a lot about this, Jackie, because there are so many songs that I love that are different from this particular one. And maybe even some songs that I like more. But I could not get away from Permission to Dance just because of my story. And because I think it was the first one that Ariel introduced me to. It became, like I said, a theme song in therapy. I don't know. It just became my go-to for a long time in therapy of just that would be like my startup song of it's time to try to do what you can do.
Yeah.
I love also the video that in the choreography BTS tried really hard to incorporate sign language for the deaf community or the speaking impaired community. As a person who lost my ability to speak for a while, I really love that. They thought of that they went there to include people in the disability community who felt discluded, and they are just letting them know, listen, everybody has the permission to dance. So I hope that you guys can listen to it and enjoy it and not knock it. Don't knock Permission to Dance. It's a great
Yeah, I
song.
was just going to
It's a
say,
great song, you
I was
guys.
going to say Permission to Dance gets a lot of crap
Mm-hmm.
because it's in all English. It doesn't sound a lot like some of
No.
their other Korean songs. I have developed a fondness for it over the years, but I'll be the first to admit that it was never been on my top favorite songs list. It just hasn't been, wasn't my preference.
Yeah.
And I have to say, since you told me about this, I have seen the song in a completely different light now. I'm thinking about the video. I'm thinking about the lyrics. When we fall, we know how to land.
Yes.
Um, all of these things. It really is such an inspiring, motivating song. And it
Yes.
did bring a lot of joy because it came out during COVID, the pandemic. The music video is with the masks and just us feeling disconnected from one another. And now you've just added this other layer, of perseverance. I hope that gives new meaning to the song for people who want to knock it. And I usually am a champion behind the English songs because I love Butter and I love Dynamite and I hate when they get crap too. So you've been keeping BTS alive in your life ever since then and just becoming
Oh, yes.
more and more of a fan. Have you
Oh, yeah.
introduced your kids to them yet?
I'm trying, Jackie. I'm trying. I'm sorry to say that it's not rubbing off as much as I was hoping. But they're older. So, I don't have impressionable young children anymore. I've already, through your community, made Army friends. And so I really, really am so thankful for that. I've made 2 dear friends through your community. Thank you, Jackie, for creating this space that is fun and entertaining and just like a little family. Thank you so much, Jackie.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Hearing stories like that where people have made connections and made friends, like that's incredible. And that
It
just keeps
is.
me going. It gives me the fuel. And I want to say this. I think I've talked about this a lot on the podcast, how there is ugliness and toxicity that exists in Army for sure. I think we focus on all the wrong things. At the end of the day, we all found BTS for a reason, or they found us for a reason, and they gave us something special in our lives. And that is what we need to focus on and remember. That is why we are in this fandom. And me kind of leading a community, I am exposed to a lot of the ugliness. I see it all the time when I have this many people. And this just gave me the fuel I needed to remember that, we have our safety net. I consider my little community a safety net, safe space. And we can keep reminding each other and sharing our stories of why we're here and kind of push out the ugliness. But never talking to you, you honestly would never know that you had been through that. I mean, you are just vibrant and beautiful and well-spoken, and you would just never know. It's incredible.
Wow.
It's really incredible.
Well, thank you so much. I love you, my dear, and God bless you today. I pray that it's a beautiful day.
Thank you, Katie. And you're welcome back anytime on the podcast.
Oh, thank you so much. All right. God bless you. Bye-bye.
And that is a wrap on today's episode. I hope you enjoyed hearing Katie's miraculous story and getting in touch with what makes BTS so special. On the next episode, we're going to be unpacking the Hope on the Stage live streams and preparing for the kickoff of the tour in the US. For more fun in the fandom, follow me at Jackie in the Soup on Instagram. You could also follow the podcast at Talk Bangtan to Me Podcast, and I can't wait to talk to you in 2 weeks. Borhe.